Hello, everybody. Welcome to Amar's Game Chat. I hope you're all doing well and staying safe. I am Amar wearing a Frostmoth t-shirt. You can see Frostmoth right there, which on its own I think is pretty cool because for every video this week that I've done in the lead up to Pokemon Day 2026, I've worn like a different themed Pokemon shirt. Just because I thought it's like an easy way to celebrate the 30th anniversary and Pokemon Day on its own. So I thought it was just pretty cool. I think I pointed out in every single video the Pokemon shirt I was wearing. But for today's video, and pretty much my final video that I'm planning to do in the lead up to Pokemon Day 2026 and the Pokemon Presents in the actual day of the 30th anniversary of Pokemon, I wanted to do my own personal retrospective of the Pokemon franchise, pretty much how Pokemon has like impacted my life and some of my fondest memories with Pokemon over the years. Because I'm also expecting the Pokemon Presents to have its own retrospective. We normally, for the anniversary presentations, we get like a retrospective video of like them playing different the video games throughout the years and some like the merchandise over all the years and everything. And so, for the 30th anniversary, I figured it would be a great time to do my own retrospective and just talk about the franchise from my own perspective. And yeah, I hope you all enjoy this video. It might be emotional at some point, who knows, but I'm also expecting to get emotional during the retrospective tomorrow during the presents, or at the time tomorrow, but today when I'm uploading this video. But yeah, without further ado, I hope you all enjoy this video and let's get right into it. So the first place I want to start off with when it comes to like my experiences and memories are my first experiences and memories with the franchise. It was not in 1996 because I was not alive in 1996, but it was around like 2005, 2006, maybe as early as 2004, but it was with my older brother's Game Boy Advance, like the one that didn't have a backlight, and it was like to use it you would have to have AA batteries. And so and the game was with Pokemon Leaf Green. So I think I mentioned it in a couple of videos a little bit earlier, but I never really got too far into that copy of Pokemon Leaf Green. The last like major memories I have with it was going through like Viridian Forest, and I guess I probably made it to Brock, but I mean, I remember I never wanted to evolve my Pikachu, and that I don't remember if you get a Thunderstone that early to have the opportunity to evolve a Pikachu, because obviously Pikachu is in Viridian Forest. But I remember I never wanted to do it, and because my dad really liked Pikachu, so that's like that's the only thing I really remember from back then. I don't even remember if I chose Squirtle, but I'm assuming my love for water type starters started at some point. It probably started with Pokemon Leaf Green. But I wouldn't say that's like when I really fell in love with the franchise. I think I didn't really understand Pokemon back then. I do remember like around that time was also my brother got Pokemon Emerald, and I was actually really like sad about that because I wanted to play some Pokemon Emerald, even though I didn't really understand Pokemon back then. But it just looked so cool. Pokemon even back then, it was such a cool franchise, and it was just so cool to see all the games. And as I got older, and obviously like within like a year, I believe, Pokemon Pearl and Pokemon Diamond and Pearl had released, and that was also not like I didn't get my DS like at that point, but the Pokemon Dialga and Palkia like themed DS was my first DS ever. So you can kind of see it there. That's Dialga, and that's Palkia. So very cool. I really like it. I've kept it all these years because of that. But interestingly enough, I honestly did not. I didn't get Pokemon Pearl or Pokemon Diamond when I got this console. I don't even remember the first game I got for the DS. It might have been like a Club Penguin game. But yeah, so I think my brother got Pokemon Diamond when he got this, but I never did. I got Pokemon Pearl maybe like a year after it released, maybe a year and a half after it released. But that's when I really fell in love with the franchise. That's when I started like, when I would go to like the local library, I would try to get like DVDs of like the franchise, watch some of the older Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald type of like episodes from like obviously like I think like Battle Frontier and like those type of like that era of the anime. And I remember that's probably also when I started getting into like the books, so like the book fairs and everything. So that's when I really fell in love with Pokemon, around like 2006, 2007. And yeah, that I guess that's like really where we start off here, is just I really loved Pokemon Pearl. Again, that was at a time where I probably didn't understand Pokemon that much, but for a very long time there, until like Pokemon, I think Black and White. So I got Pokemon Black and White at launch. So probably between like 4 years, Pokemon Pearl was pretty much the only game I was really playing for a while. Well, what I meant to really say there was Pokemon Pearl was like the game that I had the most hours into. I was actually like, I remember back then it was like really exciting for me to reach 100 hours in a game. So I would constantly open and close my DS to make sure I saved at the 100-hour mark. That was just a really fun thing. I think I was getting a Hippowdon, around then, so that was just really awesome. Um, and yeah, like I have these type of memories because those are some of the things that have stuck with me over the years. But yeah, that's really when I started falling in love with Pokemon. I definitely chose Piplup by the time Pokemon Pearl came out. So at least at that point, that's when I really I think I started my lifelong mission of always choosing water starters as water types starters as my first Pokemon in every game. But yeah, again, I guess I said and I think I remember getting the I don't think I have the first. I don't think I was the first manga in the Diamond and Pearl series, but I think it was like the sixth or the fifth or sixth version of the manga. But I also got that around that time. I probably didn't really understand what's going on with that just because I think it was a little later in the manga series. But again, that's when I really started just to wanted to just play everything Pokemon and just participate in the entire Pokemon franchise. I'm not sure if it's over there, but also the Pokemon Ranger games were coming around that time. I have Pokemon Dash over there, but I got Pokemon Dash a lot later. So I just added it. I just bought it just because I wanted to add more games to my Pokemon collection. There's also Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky back there. Over here, I have Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team and Pokemon Traze. And you'll see that I will be uploading a video in a little bit. Before this video comes out, so it will be out there by the time this video is out, but it'll be a little bit of a room tour of the way I decorated my room, just with the games and everything, leading up to Pokemon Day. So you will see Pokemon Traze and Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team, but I also have Pokemon Ranger Guardians of Ozma up there. So I really just started playing a lot of Pokemon during the DS era, the spin-offs and the main games. And yeah, I really just loved the series, and obviously that love is carried through because I have a bunch of Pokemon games back there. I try to play every single Pokemon game, especially these days, to a certain extent. I don't think I finished every single Pokemon game, but again, I just want to play as many Pokemon games as possible these days and just do as much as I can within the franchise. And that really started back in the DS era. And with this DS with Dialga and Palkia on it, it doesn't work anymore. I think I dropped it once and it just stopped working, but I just always keep it just because of the memories with it. But we have a lot more things to talk about within Generation 4, but I just want to start off that was pretty much my first experiences with the entire franchise as a whole. So I just wanted to start off there. But let's get into the other experience with Generation 4 and then Generation 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And just some of the memories I have from those points going forward. So yeah, but from Pokemon Pearl going forward, I have played every single mainline game. So I got Pokemon Pearl obviously late. I got Pokemon Platinum late, so I wasn't able to ever really experience the events of Pokemon Platinum. So I wasn't able to get, and I don't know if these events were in Pokemon Pearl. I'm assuming they were, but I wasn't able to ever get Shaman and Arceus, and I could get Arceus because Arceus was in the it also has a mystery gift later on, but I was able to get Shaman and Darkrai in those Pokemon in those games just because I got them much later than then the mystery gifts weren't available anymore. But I think I mean for the longest time, honestly, Sinnoh was really high on my ranking list of the best generations, Generation 4, and it still is pretty high just because I think I have a lot of nostalgia for it, because that is where I really just again started to really fall in love with the entire franchise as a whole. But yeah, and I still remember some of the times I played with Pokemon I played Pokemon Platinum. I remember I don't remember what it was called, but it had the multiplayer place where there was a bunch of mini games, and I really loved that a lot. And I remember going into that, not really doing anything with it because back then I think it was I was normally only playing local multiplayer in the Pokemon games. I never really did much online until Pokemon Black and White released, and you had the extra Ansiever and everything, and it was I think in my opinion it was a little bit easier to do online in those games. But I would just go in and just walk around that plaza for a little bit, and it was just really fun. The Generation 4 games, those were probably like, as a whole, like really defining to my youth, because for the longest time when I was younger, the only games I really played were Pokemon games, and then sometimes like I'd play like Mario Kart DS, or I would play, I would play like Super Smash Brothers Wii or Super Smash Brothers Brawl with like my family, or I would play like Wii Sports and stuff. So I was mainly just a Pokemon player for probably leading up into like Generation 5. So for those first couple of years where I was just like I was playing at my DS, it was mainly just Pokemon games. I would always play Pokemon games, or sometimes I would get like for like the not really gaming franchises, but I was starting to sometimes get like a Star Wars game on my DS, or I would get like again, like I mentioned earlier, like I had the Club Penguin game. Like, I think I had one Club Penguin game, maybe I have two now. Like back then, like again, I said I think Club Penguin was my first game. And then, like, speaking of the Pokemon games, I remember back then, like I that was like Club Penguin and Pokemon were like my two main games I was playing. But I traded my brother my copy of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time for a copy of the Club Penguin game. I didn't really, I probably didn't play much of Explorers of Time, and then maybe around that time I also had gotten Explorers of Sky, so it didn't really make sense for me to have Explorers of Time in my mind. But it's just like those fun memories, those interesting memories are things that just stay with me all these years. I never even like rebought a copy of Pokemon Explorers of Sky until very recently. So, maybe I'll play it. But again, I have Pokemon Explorers of Time, and I also have Pokemon Explorers of Sky back there. So if I really want to go back to that era of Mystery Dungeon, I will boot up Pokemon Explorers of Sky. But yeah, I guess there's not really much more for me to say in that regards. I really love Pokemon Pearl and Pokemon Platinum. And then pretty much the first Pokemon game I ever got like at launch was Pokemon Soul Silver, and I really loved those games. Well, I'll get back to it in a little bit, but when I was younger, I never like really wanted to spend too much time training. So once I got Pokemon Pearl, Pokemon Platinum, like I finished those games and Pokemon Soul Silver came out, I transferred over a bunch of my good Pokemon over to it, and I still to this day regret it because without talking about Pokemon Soul Silver yet, I did lose that copy of the game at a family party probably like 13 or 14 years ago. It was just like, it's kind of sad. And it is probably one of the probably the saddest moments of my life, just because when I think back to it, because I was really sad back then, just because it had my, I think my original Empoleon, and it had like some of my event Pokemon, like the Regigigas you got at Toys R Us, and Arceus, like one of my Arceuses, and like I think it was the Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina you can get in Pokemon Platinum, but it also might have been just an event of those three as well. And like that's the team I beat Red with and everything. So it was just really sad because, well, coupled with losing that, I loved Pokemon Soul Silver. It was my first experiences like really playing through Kanto to a certain extent. Obviously, it's not the full Kanto experience, and obviously Johto, and I really love those games. I remember like that's probably I have like experiences of like remembering how I got to Kanto, and like I don't think that my team was like good enough back then. So I would always be worried I'm gonna lose to like the gym leaders from Kanto. Obviously I had a very long time trying to beat Red in Pokemon Soul Silver, but um thankfully I not too long after I lost the copy, I was able to get another copy of Soul Silver, and I think I finished it probably around 10 years ago. So I got Pokemon, I think I got this copy in 2013, and then I put it on the back burner because I probably was still really sad. I did not want to revisit a Pokemon Soul Silver for the longest time, but I think there was like a lull where like during the 20th anniversary, when then we were waiting for like Pokemon Sun and Moon and Pokemon Go to release, I popped back in, and I beat it. I think I transferred over some Pokemon still from my older games to do that. So hopefully I don't lose this copy of Pokemon Soul Silver. But I think it also did teach me a lesson to make sure I keep my Pokemon copies close by, and make sure like I don't, because back then I used to carry like a bunch of my DS games with me, so it's probably a lot easier for me to lose DS games back then. But still, I think about that a lot. And I think it's also just coupled with the fact I really love Pokemon Soul Silver. It was, again, the Pokemon game I had. It was the first Pokemon game I really got at launch. I had the Celebi event and everything. So, I'm glad it didn't discourage me when I lost that copy to stop playing Pokemon, because like, again, Pokemon defined my life, my youth in it, like during Generation 4, Generation 5, Generation 6, going forward into now. So it's a very defining factor of my life, and I don't really think I would be, anywhere near the same person I am without Pokemon. So I'm glad. It's really sad I lost the copy, but I'm glad it didn't discourage me again to stop playing Pokemon and everything, just because, I'm glad I'm still actively playing all the games, and like you can see all the plushies back there, and then I have some plushies on my bed behind me, which for the reaction tomorrow, I think they'll all be joining us. I have some plushies also around the room, so maybe they won't be joining us, but I think I'll have full bed, this whole bed, just with a bunch of different Pokemon plushies and everything, just because, everyone's gonna want to see what they're gonna show off tomorrow. So, but yeah, I mean, that's largely my experience with Generation 4. Um, Again, I remember like some of the times, like, I remember I beat Pokemon Pearl, like Cynthia, when I was at like the doctor's office, so that was really exciting. I still remember like some of the times where I would take my DS with me to the doctor's office, and like there'll be someone else there playing Pokemon, or someone would come over and watch, like one of my peers would come over and watch, and it was just really awesome back then. Pokemon is a community game in a lot of ways, and it's just really cool just to always see like someone else playing Pokemon, and I think it builds a lot of friendships and everything. And I'm really happy that I was able to get into Pokemon when I was younger, because again, I don't know who I would be without Pokemon these days. But yeah, that is pretty much all. Before I start like tearing up, that is pretty much all I have for Generation 4 at the moment. Again, I have like copies. Let me actually get them. I have like I was able to buy, like back then I was able to get like 2 DVDs of the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl anime. So I have those still. They're like in a part of like some of the decorations. So I will get those. So give me a second. Oh, I guess it will be really fast for you all, but yeah, I got to get them. So I'll be right back. So yeah, I got them here. These, I also have like a collection of the movies, but these were like my first game, like not games. These are my first time I really like watched the Diamond and Pearl anime. I think one of these is missing the disc. I think the disc is somewhere else. Yeah, like the Buizel Battle of Dimension isn't in here, like the disc for that, but the Diamond and Pearl like first series for the anime for Diamond and Pearl is in here, which is great. That's really awesome. But yeah, I just wanted to show off those. And then just a little bit later, well, not a little bit later, probably like 10 years later, I was able to get like the Diamond and Pearl 4 movie collection, which is very interesting. I don't think I haven't watched all 4 of these, but it's always interesting to see like Pokemon that weren't in the generation, like that specific generation, weren't introduced in that generation, appear. Within like the movies going forward, because it's like a little tease of what's coming next in Pokemon. They did the same thing with Lucario, I believe, in like Pokemon. It was a very interesting Pokemon movie. Like I really liked the Pokemon movie. It was probably one of the first Pokemon movies I ever watched. But like that movie, I believe, came out in Generation 3, or like right when we were entering Generation 4. And obviously they've done that with like the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games, where we had like Munchlax show up and when it wasn't like fully introduced yet and everything. So I really like when they do that. I saw someone talk about earlier on social media that like maybe they should like include like a Generation 10 Pokemon in Pokepia, and I think that'd be really cool if they did that. I don't think they will, but I think it'd just be a really cool thing. It's always cool just to see them tease, what's going to happen later in the franchise, through the games. And in this case, like we had Zoroark the movie, which is awesome. Zoroark, a master of illusion. So I gotta put these back, but from this point forward, I guess we could. I don't think there's really much more I could say about Generation 4, in the sense that like some of my memories, like there's some memories that are kind of like in between like Generation 4 and Generation 5. Like I remember playing Pokemon Rumble with my older brother on the Wii. I remember like Poke Park, like the first Poke Park, my cousin had it, so we played a lot of that. And I guess like the big thing for like a generation, like defining of this generation for me, was, again, this was like the first time I was really playing games with like other people, and like a lot of my family members. Like I remember my uncles had Pokemon, like these generation games. My cousin had it, my brothers had it, and we all just battled and everything, and it was just such a fun experience. Obviously, you can see, I don't know if you could see, yeah, you could see it. it's Pokemon Battle Revolutions back there. We did a lot of Pokemon Battle Revolution once that released, just because it was always cool to have that game on the TV and like we could battle. Obviously, we have Pokemon Champions coming out in just well, we don't have Champions coming out, but we do have Pokemon Champions coming out very soon. Hopefully, we'll probably hear about it more once the Pokemon Presents airs in probably just around 9 hours from the time that this video is uploaded. But yeah, I'm hoping that brings back kind of that same experience that Pokemon Battle Revolution had. And then obviously going backwards, even like Pokemon Stadium and everything had. Though I don't think you could move your Pokemon over to Pokemon Stadium. I think it's only like I think Pokemon Battle Revolution was like the first game in the franchise to do that, where you could like just go into like when you start boot up the game, there's like a option that you could choose to battle in Pokemon Battle Revolution, and it was just really cool. You can bring your whole team over and you can battle, and I'm glad that they bring him. I'm glad they bring back the same kind of feeling that they had with Pokemon Champions. But that is all I really have. We spent a good like I don't know. It wasn't like 20 minutes, but we spent a good 20 minutes talking about these first experiences. But we still have Generation 5, Generation 6, Generation 7, and Generation 8, and Generation 9 to talk about. So I don't want to make this video super long. So let us get right into Generation 5. So I had all of my mainline games like displayed in the corner over here on top of my dresser. And so I went and got them. So I just wanted to show you all, I have my copies of Pokemon Soul Silver here, or like my new copy of Pokemon Soul Silver, or like my replacement copy of Pokemon Soul Silver. I have Pokemon Pearl and I have Pokemon Platinum. So these are the three that I chose from Generation 4. So I don't have Diamond, I don't have Heart Gold, but I still really love these games. I love Generation 4, but now we are on to Generation 5. I have my Oshawott Funko right here. But I also, with that, I also got my copies of Pokemon White version and Pokemon Black 2 version. So you can tell I really like Zekrom, so I chose both of the copies that had Zekrom in it. But again, as I mentioned earlier, I have a lot of nostalgia for Generation 4, but I think Generation 5 is also when I started to really fall in love with these spin-offs that Pokemon creates. So you can kind of see right there, I have Pokemon Roll Blast, and obviously it probably isn't like the greatest Pokemon spin-off ever made, but it is my favorite because I have a lot of fond memories playing with like my younger brother in that game, and like we had like a competition about who can finish the game first and the type of Pokemon that we were able to collect and everything. So I have a lot of fond memories with that, and so I really love the game. And then obviously I also have Pokemon Conquest right there. You can kind of see it right there. And Pokemon Conquest is a series that I think objectively for me it is the best Pokemon spin-off game I've ever played. Maybe I don't know if that's the case for everybody, but I think that's also comes from the fact that I hadn't really ever played a game like that. I guess like the biggest comparison like in my mind would be like to Fire Emblem. I never really played a Fire Emblem game before I played that, so it was just like a new type of take on Pokemon, and I think I really enjoyed that. I don't think I ever finished it. My younger brother did, so I know how the game goes and everything, but I would love for there to be a new Pokemon Conquest. You can see my bingo card, I included a slot for a Pokemon Conquest. Oh, no, I didn't. I did not include the Pokemon Conquest slot. I included other spin-offs, but like in past bingo cards I had, in past predictions, I always would just love to see like a new Pokemon Conquest, like the return of even that game if they really want to. Just because I think Pokemon Conquest is such a cool idea, and it's just a cool crossover that I think it's just really fun. And like if they ever do a sequel or like a remake of it, or like just a re-release of it, I would definitely go and finish it because that game was really fun. I just don't think I really understood the game as much back then. And I was probably really distracted with Pokemon White version and Black 2 version. Those were the main Pokemon games I was playing back then. But with these two games, I think I've mentioned it before, but Generation 5 and especially like these two games are, I think until Scarlet and Violet, which I know is crazy to say, but I think these and Scarlet and Violet are my favorite Pokemon games ever created, at least for the mainline games, just because it's just really fun. And, and we are on Pokemon Black and White, and Pokemon Black and White 2, so I just really enjoy these games a lot. I really love the Unova region. It's just such a cool place just to explore in these games, and I really love all the Pokemon designs. And I think for me, obviously, it was a big switch up for like Pokemon to like obviously like the 156 I believe Pokemon that they created for Unova region. Like in Pokemon White, those were the Pokemon you could catch, and I think for me, like that's also why I really love the Unova region, in the sense that like those were the Pokemon like I was always running into. Like this was like the first generation where I like started playing Pokemon these games right around launch, so I was able to get like the Victini event and everything. And so like I was really familiar. I really familiar with these Pokemon just because I wasn't seeing like the other 4 generations of Pokemon until like I think in Pokemon White, the post game, like you could go and catch some of the older Pokemon, and then I think maybe they were implemented directly like within the whole game of Pokemon Black and White too. But it's just a really awesome game, and I have like same thing with like with the Generation 4 games. I have a lot of experience just of playing with my family and playing like battling them and everything. And this was like the first times I really went online with Pokemon games. So I remember like my cousin went on vacation one time and he took his game with him, and we just like played it. We just battled, and I think there was like a feature in these games. I remember it that like you could talk like before the game started, so like that's how me and him talked for between like each game, and I think we had a lot of fun. And then obviously X Transceiver, you had like both, obviously that was implemented like into the main game in terms of like, the story, but you could also X Transceiver like with your friends and family if you had. I believe there was like a local version of it. I'm not sure if there was an online version of the X Transceiver, but I remember like obviously like if you had like the DSi and the 3DS, you had like the cameras, you can turn your camera on and like you could draw on it. And then obviously there was also like the dream world and everything. These games are just really fun. I remember having a lot of fun with them. I was talking about like I'm putting 100 hours into a Pokemon game with like Pokemon Pearl. I think I did it with Pokemon White as well. And I think like it's just like I think putting so much time into these Pokemon games, it kind of puts into respect for like me, like just like I really loved the game back then. And this was also around the time I started to like play other games. Like I started playing a lot of different like Nintendo franchises and everything. But I'm glad that Pokemon White 2 still stuck with me. And Pokemon White and then Pokemon Black 2 also just really stuck with me throughout like that entire time, just because I really love these games. These games and like Generation 4 games. And I'll say I love a lot. Like I think I'll probably say I love like pretty much every single game you're gonna see here from the mainline series. I think I'm gonna say like I love them all because they're all really awesome, and I really love the franchise as a whole. But you know what? And I got my copy of Pokemon White right there, and then I got my copy of Pokemon Black 2 right there, and you can kind of see like this one I have like everything for it. So I have like the Club Nintendo code. I have like you got like a Genesect a mystery gift at launch. I have the precautions booklet. I have the network connections booklet, and then I have my instruction booklet for Pokemon Black and White 2, which is awesome. And yeah, and like around this time was also when I started, I guess probably towards the end of Generation 4 is also when I started like going on the internet and seeing like what everyone else, not really what everyone else thinks about Pokemon games, but like I would go on and I would see like go on Cerebi and everything and just like see what different secrets these games also had. So I think that also helped a lot because I was able to like see like there was so much more for these games. Like there's so much more in Pokemon than just like going around and battling and trading and catching everything. And so I really love these games. These games are, again, probably Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, especially with the Switch 2 edition now, or like the Switch 2 updates. They're probably my favorite Pokemon games. And I just, it's always just really cool. Like, I showed off like my Oshawott Funko over there, but obviously Oshawott is right there on the back. You see Tepig, Snivy. And then on this one, it's kind of the same thing. You see like Tepig, Oshawott, and Snivy as well, like in a different order. And then, and I think also what's really cool about these is like they're the sequel. Like this is probably the first time in, I guess not really the first time, but like they made direct sequels to a Pokemon game. Obviously like Pokemon Gold and Silver and Crystal were also like sequels to Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, and then Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver and everything. But it's just really cool. Like this is like the first time I went from Pokemon White to just play Pokemon Black 2. And then obviously like between Pokemon White and Pokemon Black 2, 3DS had released. So they also had like the Pokemon Pokedex 3D, where like every day I believe you could like get like 5 new Pokemon to add to your Pokedex, and it was all just the Generation 5 Pokemon. And that was really awesome, just opening up my game every day and like seeing new Pokemon. I probably like for some days I probably like went forward because I wanted some more Pokemon to add to my Pokedex. And then they had the QR codes and everything. And obviously, like later on, we had Pokemon 3D Pro. I believe that released with X and Y. So I think it had like a Pokemon up to Generation 6 in that one. But it was just so much fun to play Pokemon in Generation 5 and Generation 4 and pretty much every generation going forward. And then you know, I'm not even talking about the Pokemon cards. Like for the TCG side, I started collecting TCG around the time of like I think probably around like the middle of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl's TCG saga era and everything. And so like some of my, as you saw like in my Pokemon TCG video that I uploaded with some of my favorite cards, my first Pokemon card was an Empoleon level X for Tin promo. And then like I have a good amount of like level X's in there, and I think I have a lot of nostalgia for that. I think for like Generation 4, besides the game, I have a lot of nostalgia for the TCG set, because I like like some of my fondest memories with that is just my older brother got me the binder, and he got me a pack with that, and I just started putting Pokemon cards in there, like Pokemon cards I had, and it was just really fun. And I think like that's probably until around the time like Sun and Moon released, and like well, I guess like late into X and Y and then Sun and Moon. I didn't really collect many Pokemon cards during the Generation 5 era, but Generation 4 I collected a bunch, and that's also kind of because also Heart Gold and Soul Silver, they had like this own set with like the Prime cards and like the Legend cards. And yeah, you know, the TCG was also awesome again. And then like I have I also was thinking about like the anime as well. I think this was also the first time I didn't watch the full X and Y, I mean the full Black and White and the Unova anime, but I remember like the first episode that aired, like I made sure I was there to watch it with the rest of my family. So it was just really awesome, just that whole era of Pokemon Black and White. And I think if Generation 4 didn't solidify my love for Pokemon and like me wanting to be there every single time like new Pokemon game releases and everything, Generation 5 definitely did it for me, just because, you know, it's just they're really awesome games, and it's just I think there's just so many cool spin-offs, and there was so many cool things. And yeah, so I just really love Generation 5. I was talking about the movies earlier. I do have like one of the collections with a couple of like the black and white movies as well. So I think like probably like my the one spot I don't really like, I'm not as familiar with Pokemon is like the anime. Obviously I have all the games, like not all the games. I have like a bunch of games. I have the TCG, like I collect TCG cards, but I don't really dive into the anime as much as I probably should. And I'm hoping now with 30th anniversary, maybe we're gonna get like the 30th anniversary sub series, and maybe that's really just gonna pull me in, and now I can go back and watch Pokemon Horizons and maybe even catch up. It'll probably take me a long time to catch up like on the older anime with like Ash and everything, but yeah, Pokemon White and Black 2. I don't really think I have much more to say in terms of these. Obviously, I mentioned Pokemon Rumble Blast. I really love Pokemon Rumble Blast. I think like it was. I think I'm glad. Like it would have been cool if they made like a Pokemon Battle Revolution sequel for like maybe the Wii U, and you could like play your copies of Pokemon Black and White 2 on that. I think like it would have been, or maybe obviously they couldn't update it because it was on the Wii, but it was just, you know, I think like again Pokemon Champions coming out, it's just really cool and everything. And you know, I'm kind of going on like a ramble now, but I think it's just I really love Generation 4, Generation 5, but now, you know, we get into Generation 6, which also contained the Pokemon 30th anniversary. So I mean not Pokemon 30th, the Pokemon 20th anniversary. But for the copies at least I have copy of Pokemon X, and I have a copy of Pokemon Alpha Sapphire right here, and then up there I have Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and then like Pokemon Y as well. So I'm very excited to talk about these for a little bit. You know, these were the first 3D-dimensional Pokemon. I remember being there when they first revealed it. Like I think I was like in the 6th grade at that point. Oh no, I was in the 5th grade when they revealed these. So you know that I remember like texting my cousin about it, like when they were revealing it, and it was just really fun. And like here it is, Pokemon X and then Alpha Sapphire. Let's just talk about it for just a little bit. Yeah, Pokemon X, Pokemon Alpha Sapphire. So yes, now we are on to Generation 6, obviously with Pokemon X and Y and Pokemon Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, which I think for me, these two games like defined this generation for me in terms of like, obviously I had a lot of memories in terms of like the games, obviously with these two games and like the like Pokemon tournament and everything. But I think for a lot of like my memories with this generation and like during these years do come from Pokemon X and Y, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Obviously, I also have Gates to Infinity, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Gates to Infinity right there, and I believe Pokemon Tournament is right next to it. Yeah, Pokemon Tournament is right there. So I did love this generation to like a lot. Like obviously the introduction of Mega Evolutions was really cool, and like it being the first generation that introduced gimmicks and everything. I think X and Y is super awesome, and like Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire was like the first time I actually had ever really played through Hoenn in any like major way. So like having this game right here and like them introducing Mega Evolutions was awesome. And yeah, there's like, I guess like I remember the day that Pokemon X and Y was revealed, and it was like this like I think I was maybe like, it was like January 8th of like 2023, I think, and I was 2013, and like I was in the 5th grade. So I remember texting my cousin about this, like they just revealed a new Pokemon game, and it was just really awesome. And just seeing like Pokemon in 3D, like a new, like same thing with like Pokemon Conquest. I'd never seen really a Pokemon game like in this form. I had never played Pokemon Coliseum or Pokemon Gale of Darkness, like XD Gale of Darkness or anything like that. So this was like my first time just being able to play a Pokemon. Just like you have like a full character model, and all the Pokemon are animated in 3D and everything, and it was just really awesome just to see that, and I remember like it going like forward a little bit to get to like the release of the games. I remember just like waking up so early going to pick up these games with my dad, and then I also have like the pre-order bonus posters over there like in my closet, just because like, and it was like it came with like a timeline with like all of the Pokemon mainline games, and it came with like a poster of like the entire like region and everything, and like I think the back of it had the logos for the games. So like I remember that so much, and I remember having so much fun with these games. Like it's just I really it's hard to put into words how much I really loved Pokemon X and Y back then, how much I still love it now, especially with like Pokemon Legends ZA released. It's just such an awesome game. And then like looking into the case, obviously we had like the Torchic event they gave out, and then Pokemon X and Y's manual, which like followed like in the way that 3D manuals were now. So like 3DS manuals, like they were like just a couple of pages, like in it like was like in a folded format, which is awesome. And then we have the a Club Nintendo code in here. And then I also have my copy of the game in my new 3DS XL, because I was playing it around the time that ZA came out, just to go revisit it for a little bit. But just it's such a fun game, and I really love these games. I really love the Generation 6 games so much. And like again, like I guess like for me, I mean, I didn't really have like nostalgia for like a Pokemon like Mewtwo that much, because obviously I didn't really grow up. I grew up with like the Generation 4 games pretty much. So, but like seeing Mega Mewtwo have like obviously new Mega Evolutions for like the Kanto Pokemon and like the Pokemon previous that I had like seen in the older games was awesome. Being around for like the Fairy type introduction was great, and like it's just such a cool game. And like the obviously they like the I forgot what it's called, but like it's right here. The Pokemon Global Link was awesome. Well, which I don't know if that was actually what it was called. Like, but like you see kind of right there, like I don't think it was called. Maybe it was called Pokemon Global Link, but that's just really awesome just to see. And like you could obviously like if you're playing with like your friends like locally, like they pop up on there, and that's how you like battle. You request like battle with people, and you had like if you met anybody online, they would show up there. It's just really awesome. And then obviously the friends. It's just really cool. These again like for me like the Pokemon games are just like about community, and I like it's just awesome to think about just how much like fun I've had, not just like I guess in the sense that like obviously I've had a lot of fun just playing the games on my own and everything, but just also playing them with like family members, and like if I saw somebody like at like school or something also playing it, like I'd battle them, and it's just really awesome. And like a lot of people like around me obviously like were also into Pokemon, so like just like being able to talk to them about Pokemon when I was younger, it's just really awesome. And it's just again like a lot of my memories happen because of being able to just also talk about Pokemon and play Pokemon games with everyone else around me. So it's really awesome. And Pokemon X and Y was really great. I think I maybe let me actually see if I have any pictures. I think I have a picture of the game back then. So let me pull that up. Yeah, you can kind of see like this is just a battle between I guess this camera doesn't really focus that well, but that's like a Delphox right there, and that's my Xerneas. And I took this picture on March 8th 2014. I think I was playing online against someone, and then like I had this like a picture with a bunch of my DS games back then, and like that's Pokemon XY right there. And then that's like I think maybe Gale of Darkness is all, I mean not Gale of Darkness, maybe Gates to Infinity was on here maybe. Or maybe not. No, it wasn't. But I think maybe it's in this picture. I think I have a picture of Gates to Infinity. So this picture actually might have been a little bit earlier before Gates to Infinity released. Um, but yeah. Oh no, there's right there. You can see kind of, you can't really see it, but it's right there, Gates to Infinity. But you know, like it's just really awesome. Just I really just, you know, again, same in black and white. This is also one I was really getting to, like different like Nintendo franchises and everything. You kind of see it like here at a bunch of like different 3DS games. Like on this side, like Pilot Wings and Kid Icarus Uprising, which is my favorite game of all time, in case you all did not know. And like Animal Crossing New Leaf and everything. That's like my first Animal Crossing game. So it really got into like, but I'm like, I think Pokemon helps me like really fall in love with like other Nintendo franchises as well, because obviously I would get like a Nintendo console for Pokemon on its own, but then I would see all these cool games to like play between Pokemon releases and everything, and it was just really cool. So we had that there, and then we also had Pokemon Alpha Sapphire, Omega Ruby, which again, this was my first like really time really playing through the Hoenn region. So I like, it was like a whole new experiences for me. So technically like through, and I guess it also happened like with Generation 5, or not in like Generation 4, but I kind of like, this was like, I had like 2 new experiences within the same generation, which was really awesome. And we kind of don't, I don't think I don't really get that anymore with the newer generation, because obviously I'm fully caught up, like in terms of, obviously now we're getting Generation 4 remakes, and then we are like, we're gonna have Pokemon Leaf Green and Fire Red just with the Pokemon Presents tomorrow, and then, you know, and then obviously I had revisited I visited Hoenn through Alpha Sapphire. So, and then obviously the most recent remakes were like with the Sinnoh games. So like I'm like, next remakes are possibly just Generation 5 games, which I will really love. But you know, I guess I won't ever really be able to get back like that idea, like that feeling of like I have 2 new experiences playing Pokemon games, which is something that I think really defined me when I was young, because I was always playing just a new Pokemon game all the time, which is really awesome. But Pokemon Alpha Sapphire, I really love this game a lot. Again, you know, I don't think I have the manual. Yeah, I probably don't have the manual for it, but well, this is also when they started using electronic manuals. But there's my cartridge of it right there. And just, it's really cool. And like, this came out when I was just starting the 7th grade. So, or I think, yeah, when I was just starting the 7th grade. So this came out like with Smash as well, Smash for Wii U and 3DS and everything. And like, I just really like these games. I really like the Megas. I really like, you know, Mega Evolution as a whole. So having that X and Y, and then having it here as well, I think that also like helps in some way for like me, because like my Hoenn experience is heavily aligned to what Alpha Sapphire was. And then obviously like being able, like watching when I was younger others play Pokemon like Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, but I never really played those games, and I'm hoping maybe one day they'll release them on NSO, or like on the same thing they're doing with like Fire Red and Leaf Green now, where, you know, they're available on the eShop to buy. But I really love this game. I really love X and Y and Alpha Sapphire and Mega Ruby tons. Again, we have Gates to Infinity up there. I don't think I have any other spin-off. Well, actually we do. I mean, we have Pokemon Art Academy right there, which I never played much of. That was mainly my younger brother's game. Again, we have Pokemon X and Y. I already talked about Smash, which I guess this was all the time I was really falling in, like I was really getting into like Smash and like Smash speculation and everything. So, and then obviously they had Greninja show up in Pokemon, I mean in Super Smash Brothers 4 and everything, which is awesome. We had like Charizard become its own character and everything. But yeah, you know, this generation was really great. And then obviously like looking back at like the TCG, this was also when the 20th anniversary happened. So we had like Pokemon Generations and Pokemon Evolutions released. So that's like a heavily defining part of the TCG for me. Like I think like a lot of my older video, like I think I also had like a couple of older videos before that, like where I opened up TCG packs from like the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire series, and like I think maybe some X and Y packs a little earlier. But my like where I really started opening up TCG packs on this channel was with the Generations Elite Trainer box and like the Evolution Trainer box and everything. So even in some ways, like that's helped define this YouTube channel to a certain extent, where, you know, some of my older videos I also do have of like around like 2014, where I think I have a reaction to like the Alpha Sapphire's E3 reveal, like the first time we ever really saw it. And like, so it's just really awesome. And then obviously we had like primal versions of Kyogre and Groudon, which is really cool, because I like my introduction to Pokemon with Groudon and Kyogre was through Soul Silver and like Hard Gold and everything. So that's just really awesome. Like, a lot of my experiences are obviously with these older games in terms of like seeing like the older Pokemon show up, and then like having to like see like a new version of them in like the remakes and everything. It's just really awesome. But yeah, the TCG, Generations Evolution was really awesome. Um, and yeah, that's really all I really have to say right now for X and Y. I'm doing this all off script, so I'm just like thinking as I'm recording this video, just to think about like the different things I want to talk about and everything. But yeah, Pokemon X and Y, Pokemon Alpha, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, really awesome games, really awesome experiences. I have the soundtrack for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire there. I bought that recently, alongside like a couple of other Pokemon soundtracks. And yeah, I don't really have any movies to show for this one yet, but maybe in the future, maybe I'll buy. And then for like the 35th anniversary, you'll see a like Blu-ray version or like the DVD copy of like one of the older anime seasons. Or actually, I think I actually maybe do. It's not easily accessible, but I think I have one of the older seasons like as like a DVD, which is also awesome. I haven't really watched that one yet, and I think that's also why I've been trying to collect like some DVDs from the franchise, just so I can go and watch those like episodes like a little bit easier these days. But yeah, now we're on to Generation 7, which is Pokemon Sun and Moon, Pokemon Ultra Moon and Sun, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. So there's a lot to talk about here, which I'm very excited to do. And we also had like other spin-offs like Pokemon Go and everything. So let's get right into that. And like just before we even get in Generation 7, like these games were also like around the time where I started to like really, I guess, participate like outside of just like my family and friends. Like I went to a convention, local convention, and like a lot of people were like obviously like playing Pokemon there, and that was really awesome. I just wanted to mention that because obviously that's like another experience that I have related to the Pokemon franchise. But in this case, we also now have the Generation 7 games, again in the form of Pokemon Moon, Pokemon Ultra Moon, and then Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. And obviously, I remember watching these games not really be revealed because I was on a school field trip when Pokemon Sun and Moon was revealed. It was February 26th, 2016. But I like got back on the I guess coming back to school, and like I saw the reveals on my phone, and that was just really awesome. I texted a bunch of people about it, like, oh my gosh, they just revealed like a new Pokemon game. And like obviously we had known they obviously did a Pokemon Direct, a little bit, like they announced the Pokemon Direct, but they revealed Pokemon Sun and Moon, and obviously they didn't show much of it. They didn't really show anything really of it, except like some offhand screenshots. But we saw that, and that was really awesome. And then obviously that summer we had seen like the stars and everything. We also saw Pokemon Go release that summer, and that was like that. I know for like everyone that was like a cultural phenomenon. Like you just go outside and you play Pokemon Go for like a couple of hours every day, or like just go like work and you just catch a Pokemon on the way there. Like it's really awesome. But I think like 2016 was defined for me with Pokemon Sun and Moon, and Pokemon Go, and then I also had graduated middle school at that point. So like that year, so like there's a lot of things that happened that year for me, but Pokemon was defining. And then obviously I started like my 9th grade with Pokemon Sun and Moon, which is really awesome. So I really love these games. You'll hear that me say that a lot. I really love these games, and like looking back at like X and Y, obviously like we were fully in like the 3D era now. I remember like with X and Y, speaking about it for a couple more seconds, the I think it was called like Super Training was also like awesome for me, because like I remember talking to my brother like, oh, what are they about to introduce, like the ability to go above level 100? That would be really awesome. And I think they kind of did like within those mini games, which was really cool. But we got Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon. It's really awesome. This was like around the time I really also started getting into like Nintendo Directs. So like I was around when Ultra Sun and Moon was revealed. I remember that. Like I called my cousin up when it was revealed. Like they just revealed Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Like the next games for after Sun and Moon, which was really awesome. But yeah, we got Pokemon Sun and Moon. Obviously, I mean, I guess like in some ways like the X and Y like TCG also applies here to a certain extent, because the celebrations Elite Trainer Box and like Evolutions also released around this time, and that makes sense. You tie Evolutions in. I mean, this game is kind of, it references Kanto a good amount, and like you had like the rideable Charizard and everything. Like and like I think the main characters are also from Kanto, so like it makes a lot of sense to have like these games be the generation game, like the 20th anniversary games, and then you follow it up with a even awesomer version of the Pokemon X and Y. I mean, Pokemon Sun and Moon with Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which focused on Necrozma, which, you know, I guess back then also it was really kind of interesting to me because, you know, I guess at that point I'd really been like I'd been in the Pokemon franchise for like probably like over 10 years at that point. So like I'd seen Pokemon Pearl and Pokemon Diamond get like Pokemon Platinum, and then I had seen Pokemon Black and White. There was like a version with Kyurem in it, but we never got that version with Pokemon X and Y, and obviously now we did with Pokemon Legends ZA. But it was awesome to see them like return to that, so we can have like Necrozma as like a main Pokemon that you can get, and like a story that was somewhat focused on Necrozma. And like, yeah, you know, I just really enjoyed Pokemon Sun and Moon, and I enjoyed talking to others about it. I enjoyed trading. This was around the time we also started like seeing like the code cards become like events for Pokemon. So, you know, I remember I had like a mystery gift of Salazzle that I think I transferred from Pokemon Moon to Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. And then obviously we had those codes with like the 20th anniversary for like X and Y and Alpha Sapphire Mega Ruby, but it was just really awesome. You know, there's a lot of awesome things I think, and like this being the game like I went to high school with and everything, it was just really awesome just to see and play Pokemon and have a new Pokemon game start off that year with me. And you know, and then obviously Pokemon pretty much defined, it was like a defining part of my high school experience, because pretty much we got the new Pokemon games every single year while I was in high school, which is awesome, because I always had something to look forward to, like to play like around the time like when finals or like not finals, but like when midterms were happening and everything. So yeah, Pokemon Moon, I really love Pokemon Moon. I think my copy of Pokemon Moon, yeah, it's in here. I have like this little note card that I think I probably wrote something on. Yeah. So it says right here, Amar's Pokemon Moon, and the day I started it, so 11/18/2016. And then we had like an advertisement for the Z-Ring, except like the toy, and then we had obviously the in-game manual, little pamphlet, and then I put that back in here, my index card that I put in here. And then we also had like Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and I didn't put an index card in this one, but there's Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and like it's just really awesome. And then, you know, I guess like I have a video on the channel where I went to a early release, maybe not early release, but like the release for Pokemon Sun and Moon, and in like the TCG side, and like I have a video of me opening the packs I got from that. Obviously in my TCG video you can see I got the promo for Cosmog from that, so it's just really awesome. It's just like there's so much. I think I grew up a lot through Pokemon, and like I was able to do a lot more things. Like I think I was a lot more willing to like participate in these type of events as I got older, just because, you know, it's because I was really familiar with the franchise and everything. But then we get to Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, and I remember that when these games were revealed. And I guess you can also just talk about a little bit about how when Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon were revealed, we also got the announcement just like a week later through the Nintendo E3 that Generation 8, as we knew it, we didn't really know it back then as Generation 8, but the next generation of Pokemon games was coming. And then, but they also kind of like, in that sense, they also talked about Pokemon Let's Go and Eevee. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, when they said Game Freak was making another Pokemon game for Nintendo Switch. So yeah, and then we also had Pokemon Tournament DX as well right there. But Pokemon Let's Go with Eevee, Pikachu. I played this with I opened this and I played with my friend on launch day, so that was really awesome. And like we played it together, and it was just really cool and really fun. And obviously like the cultural phenomenon that Pokemon Go was, like we see it here, like you can catch Pokemon in the same way that you catch them in Pokemon Go. And it was just a really fun like, introduction to HD Pokemon, in my opinion. Obviously, you know, we got Pokemon Sun and Moon in just a little bit to talk about, but it was really awesome just to see these games. Yeah, you know, obviously I chose Squirtle. Like I think I mean I've referenced my fondness of water types, but in every single one of the games I've chosen the water type starter, and I'm expecting to do that once we see Generation 10 tomorrow. And then obviously with like the Leaf Green and Fire Red re-releases, I'm probably gonna choose Squirtle. But yeah, we got Map of Kanto. And for me, besides like obviously Soul Silver and Heart Gold, again talking back to like what my experience with Pokemon was, this was like my first full experience of like what a Kanto adventure would be. Like we had the full, you know, 8 gym leaders, we had all of like the 151, so that included like all the legendaries, we had the Elite Four. Obviously it's a little different in the sense that like this is more of like a remake of like what Pokemon Yellow was. So like we see like red, blue, and yellow show up throughout like the story as well. and like, but it's still really awesome. And like, I'm excited now to like this game. I mean, it's crazy to think that this game was released almost 8 years ago. So Kanto, we're gonna have our new Kanto experience tomorrow with the, or I keep saying tomorrow because I'm recording this on the day before, but we're gonna have our new Kanto experience very soon with Fire Red and Leaf Green's re-releases. But yeah, Pokemon, let's go Pikachu, let's go Eevee. Really awesome. And then we're just gonna talk about Pokemon Sun and Moon just for a little bit longer, but it's just really awesome. I might have some pictures maybe I took back then of those games as well. The issue with like me pulling up these photos is that there was like a certain time where I would just like I think I moved all my photos over, so like I don't have a lot of photos. Like I don't have any photos from November because I moved them out to like a different device, or like an SD card, so they're just not loaded on my phone. But I think maybe I might probably have like a couple screenshots maybe of the Sun and Moon reveal. Nope, well, not really. I mean, I have a picture I took of when I was getting ready to watch the Pokemon Direct they revealed, where they revealed the games. But yeah, it was just really awesome. This Generation 7 is really cool. Again, because Generation 7 pretty much was the first 3 years of me being in high school. Like that's my generation. Like that's the generation I played throughout all those 3 years. Obviously, we also had Pokken again. We had Pokemon Quest released within like in 2018, which was really awesome. I bought like the expansion of Pokemon Quest. But I guess like in some ways like this was also the time where I guess some people or some like my not everyone in my family was playing Pokemon anymore. Not all my friends were playing Pokemon anymore that used to play Pokemon. So like I was like, honestly, I think this was also probably the generation where I started experiencing more of Pokemon on its own, which is very interesting. But on my own, like I was experiencing like all the events and all the everything to do with Pokemon just on my own. But yeah, we are now on to Generation 8, which includes Pokemon Sword and Shield, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, and Pokemon Legends Arceus. Let us get right into that. Alright, so we have made it to Generation 8, which is very awesome. Pokemon Generation 8. This generation had 3 mainline games, or 3 mainlines released. So we had Pokemon Sword and Shield, we had Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and then we also had Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is very awesome, very cool. Obviously, the game we'll start off with is talking about is Pokemon Sword and Shield right here. But we also had some pretty cool spin-offs as well. We had the Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team Deluxe release, so that's like the remake of the original Mystery Dungeon games. We had new Pokemon Snap release, which is also very awesome. But everything started off with Pokemon Sword and Shield, and this game kind of holds a very special place in my heart because I love it in general, but it also released during my senior year of high school, so it's like correlated to that year in many ways. And I think it's just a very awesome game. This is the first time I ever was able to like order the double pack for any Pokemon games. So this one comes with the Larvitar and Jan Momo, Dynamax Crystals, which is really awesome. Obviously, you can see the starters there, but it's just a really awesome game. Reintroduced Dynamax and Gigantamax, which is awesome. I really just love these games a lot. I remember, this is probably besides like I guess like Super Mario Odyssey, for the longest time this was my favorite Switch games because again I really love Pokemon as a whole, but I really love these games as well, and the DLC really pulled me in back after obviously I finished it probably in like the December after they released. Then we got the DLC announcement in January of 2020, and then we got the first one, Isle of Armor, in June, and then I believe the Crown Tundra released in October. So we had a lot of Sword and Shield content for like a whole year, and it was just really awesome. This is a game that I constantly want to revisit, and I wish I would play more of it. But obviously, we also have Scarlet and Violet, which we'll get to a little bit later, which is like where I put most of my Pokemon time these days, between that and Legends ZA. But with the Dynamax Adventures, I never really did all of the Dynamax Adventures, so I never really collected like every single legendary that's like available through those, and I don't think I collected all the Ultra Beasts either. So I still have a lot of content that I can go back and revisit in this game. But I just really I really love Sword and Shield. It was really awesome, and I remember texting a lot of my friends about it. This was one of the games I was able to play with like my cousin, and we would constantly like get on and call, and we would play through the games. And that's something we also did with like Sun and Moon. which is something I didn't mention, is Sun and Moon was also the first games where maybe I just never noticed it when I was younger, because it's very possible I ran into a shiny Pokemon in like Pokemon X and Y or Black and White, but Sun and Moon, it was the first time I ever found a shiny just in the wild. It was a young goose, and it was like right at the beginning of the game, so I never found another shiny in Sun and Moon either. But it's just really awesome. That it was just my first shiny, and it was during the 20th anniversary. It felt like everything like lined up perfectly there. But I really love this game. Again, I have some nice experiences with like family members and friends as well. I remember setting this up at like one of my family members' house, and like on the TV, and I played on the TV, or like someone else played on the TV, and then I like either played like in handheld or again on the TV, and we just did some Dynamax adventures locally, and that was just really awesome. I really like this game. These games are awesome, and I'm glad. This is also the first time you ever got DLC for any Pokemon games. So normally it was like Pokemon Moon, and then we would get like another copy of Pokemon like Ultra Moon or Black and White 2, or like Pokemon obviously X and Y. We didn't get anything for that, but I guess we got ZA later. But like Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, we got Platinum. So very awesome, very cool. I really love these games a lot, and I'm glad they're part of they started the 8th generation, because I really like them a lot. I really like Sword and Shield. But then we got to Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and these were the 25th anniversary releases. So we got this was like the big release for the 25th anniversary alongside Pokemon Legends Arceus, but Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl released like within the 2021 year. And it also released with the Pokemon TCG 25th anniversary celebration set, which is also very cool. I have a really awesome video of that up on the channel where I opened up I think like a couple of different items from that set, and that was like that's like, again, I really love the TCG anniversary sets, and that one's really awesome because it includes a bunch of like cards from like older sets, and they adjusted like some cards, and they added like some new mechanics like Pokemon that never existed when those older sets existed, but now they are able to like apply them. So we got like Dark Sylveon V as like a promo. But yeah, Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. As I mentioned earlier, obviously Pokemon Pearl was pretty much my first Pokemon game. Obviously, I played Leaf Green for a little bit, obviously, but Pokemon Pearl was my first one. So I played Pokemon Shining Pearl, and these were really great recreations of that game. Obviously, that's pretty much what they are, because our like more traditional remake in a sense was Pokemon Legends Arceus. So these were just like normally like with the older remakes before this, we had gotten with like Heart Gold and Soul Silver, like it made some new improvements. Like it added like every single Pokemon up to that point in the series. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire did something very similar. Obviously, they added Mega Evolutions and everything. But this one, it stuck to pretty much the base Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. I guess they added some little tidbits of Platinum in there, but this one was really awesome, and I really loved these remakes. It was really awesome just to return to Sinnoh after all those years. It had been probably been like 12 years since I like last played as like Diamond and Pearl like in any significant way, or like Platinum. So returning to here was awesome. Even weirdly enough, I don't think I ever got the Darkrai event in here, just because I just kept pushing it off and getting the mystery gift, and I just never did it. But I did get the Shaman event, but I guess I'll never get that Darkrai event in any Pokemon game. But I am obviously able to get Darkrai through like Pokemon Legends Arceus, so it's totally fine. But Pokemon Legends, but even Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, Shining and Pearl, I really love these games a lot. I got the Shaman event. I did get the Shaman event though, and this is another double pack, so it comes with like the 200 Pokeballs. And I really enjoy these games. I really like, these again released with the 25th anniversary. So, and like I think it was the 15th anniversary of like since these had released in the first place, like Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. So everything lined up so well, and I'm just really happy that I was able to play this, and I really enjoyed it. It was just really fun just to revisit Sinnoh and see a lot of my favorite characters from back then. And then obviously like in my TCG video, I'd shown that a lot of my TCG cards in those binders are from the Diamond and Pearl TCG sets. So I was able to revisit the characters that we had like trainer Pokemon with and everything. It was just really awesome, and I really enjoyed these games. And I think some of the improvements they made to like the undergrounds, you could find like some newer Pokemon that like is not like since I think they followed most of what Diamond and Pearl had for like encounters in the overworld. So you're able to find like a lot of fire types in the underground and everything from like previous games. I don't think they added Sylveon to this game, but so because like that's like I guess that's like the big thing. Like unlike previous remakes, this kept to the point of Generation 4 and maybe Sylveon. I'm not sure about that, but I think fairy types were in the game though. So they added some advancements from the like or something like new mechanics from the later games, but they kept to the base game a lot. And in my opinion, I really liked that just because it was just a pretty fun way just to revisit um, Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. So I really had a lot of fun with that. But obviously, I think a lot of people probably between the Diamond and Pearl remakes and Legends Arceus, they probably prefer Legends Arceus, and I really like Legends Arceus. I wouldn't say I prefer it. I do like both games in very different ways, but this was honestly probably this was our pretty much transition between Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet. You know, we really got pretty much like an open world area or like multiple smaller open world areas to explore, which was really awesome. Obviously, you know, it touched upon a era of Pokemon that we had never really explored before in terms of like ancient Sinnoh and like Arceus, and you know, throughout all of Diamond and Pearl, like they're always theorizing who is like, is Dialga, is it Palkia? You know, we see that statue in like the early parts of the game. I forgot which town it's in. I think it's the same town as I think it's same town as Gardenia, but um this is just a really awesome game, and I really have a lot of fun. I really had a lot of fun with Pokemon Legends Arceus, and you know, is it again like with these games? It came around a time where a lot of the people I used to play with, like you know, my family, like they still played Pokemon, but they weren't playing it as much these days. So this was like a experience that I just pretty much experienced all on my own, and I really loved this game. You know, this game is really fun. Obviously, we got white Windeer on the back, which is really cool. You know, it's really awesome to see like ancient Pokemon or like ancient evolutions for Pokemon that like didn't exist in the main day anymore, because obviously like some Pokemon went extinct at a certain point. But really awesome game. I really enjoy Pokemon Legends Arceus. I'm glad that they continue the series with Pokemon Legends ZA, and yeah, you know, it was just a really awesome game. And I love like when it comes to like the TCG, like we had that special TCG box. They had a couple of TCG sets that like were oriented around Sinnoh and Legends Arceus, which was awesome. And like yeah, you know, within like this era is also when I started really doing like Pokemon TCG videos. So I have like this. I think I have the opening of the Arceus, like a collection box. I have obviously like the celebrations opening. I have like a bunch of Elite Trainer box openings. So this era really had a lot of Pokemon TCG. You know, and I think that's when I also started like really embedding myself, not embedding myself, but like really getting involved like in the online parts of Pokemon. Like I was also around the time actively starting to follow like Pokemon Worlds and everything. So like I was able to like I was experiencing a lot more of the wider Pokemon fandom and everything within this, like within I guess the end of generation, like within I guess Generation 7 and Generation 8. I was just, you know, and it was just really fun. I really enjoy these games. My reactions to these games are online on the channel. So pretty much, I guess like in this whole generation is also when I started really focusing on like doing reactions and stuff. So I think there's reactions to most of like the reveal of Legends Arceus and Pokemon Legend. I mean, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, Shine Pearl are on the channel. The reveal for Sword and Shield is not, because I watched that on my own. Because I had, you know, and it's very interesting. Like Pokemon Day 2019, I had a certification exam that I'd take for school, for like one of my classes, and on the same day Pokemon Sword and Shield was revealed. So I stayed home that day because I had to take it at a different school. And so I had this was revealed on the same day as I took that exam, and I passed that exam. So it's always gonna probably stick with me that, you know, on Pokemon Day in 2019, I got Sword and Shield was announced, and I also passed that exam. So that's always gonna be really fun. That's always gonna be a really fun memory. You know, it's always gonna be on the certificate that I got. And like every time I have to renew and like do the continuing education courses, it's always gonna say February 27th, 2019, the day I passed that exam. So I'm very happy. You know, that makes me very happy thinking back both to that exam and these games. So I'm very happy about that. But I guess, something I didn't mention with the Generation 7 games is Pokemon Day 2016 also had the release of Blue, Red, and Yellow. Or I think maybe just Blue and Red. I think Yellow maybe came a little bit later, but it had the release of the retro games. Like the first time we had ever really seen Virtual Console retro games make it over to another Nintendo console in that format. Normally, obviously, we get like remakes and everything, but I never really. I mean, obviously, I never played Red and Blue that much. Like I have a copy of Red now, but I never really played those back then, and I honestly didn't really play them much when they released on Virtual Console. I still have, I believe, at least I think I Blue and Yellow. I don't think I ever got Red, but it's always really fun to experience those, and obviously, those are games that I think maybe I'll revisit soon this year, like during the 30th anniversary, just because I think that's pretty awesome. But yeah, it's just very awesome just to think about how far Pokemon has come over all these years. And with Generation 8, I think they made a huge step forward, with like the games and everything, with Pokemon Sword and Shield, and especially Pokemon Legends Arceus, and obviously, with remakes with like Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. But the current generation we're on until tomorrow, you could say, is Pokemon Scarlet Violet, Generation 9, and Pokemon Legends ZA. So let us talk about that. And then let's do a little bit of a little, I guess, outro at the end of it. But yeah, let's talk about those for a second. So we are on to the modern day, the current generation, Generation 9 of Pokemon, which games-wise was defined by Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Pokemon Legends ZA, which is the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, so our first ever Nintendo Switch 2 Pokemon game, and as well as the release of Pokemon Detective Pikachu Returns, obviously some spin-off games, like some mobile games throughout all of that time as well, and then obviously like for the TCG, the return of the EX cards, the end of the Ash saga of the anime, where we moved to Pokemon Horizons. So there's a lot that happened in the last 4-ish years when it comes to Pokemon, and a lot of that starts with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So I just want to start by talking about this game for a little bit. Even without this game without even talking about the game itself, this was the first time I'd ever gone to a midnight launch for any game. So that was awesome in itself. I was just really cool just to be there, being around some Pokemon fans. I wasn't even planning to go to the midnight release when this happened, but I really wanted to play these games at midnight, so I went to it and I picked up the games and I played Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Not that long. I played it for maybe an hour that night, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Pokemon Violet. Yes, Pokemon Violet is the one I also chose. I played my main game through Pokemon Violet, and I started recently a Pokemon Scarlet playthrough, but I haven't gotten that far into it, and I probably won't now that we are on the cusp of Pokemon Pokopia and Pokemon Generation 10, and even Pokemon Champions and stuff like that. But I really, as I mentioned when I was talking about Pokemon Black and White, this is debatably, between Pokemon Black and White 2 and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, these are my favorite Pokemon games of all time. I had so much fun playing these games, despite obviously, there's some hiccups here and there with the games, but I just had so much fun. The story is awesome in my opinion. Having 3 different set paths, and then after you complete all 3 different set paths, then you get to the ending. And that those 3 set paths allowed for all 18 types to be represented in some way. I think that's all just really awesome, and it's something we hadn't really seen with Pokemon. In general, we had never really seen an open world Pokemon game before. We had the open areas and the wild areas in Sword and Shield, and we had the open areas of the 5 different areas of Pokemon Legends Arceus, but we just never had something like this before. And I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing all the new Pokemon designs. I really enjoyed terrestrializing. I think, to me at least, I think it's probably even though I really like it, it's probably my 3rd favorite mechanic, just because Megas and Dynamax and Gigantamax obviously added new forms as well, and I think having new forms Pokemon is awesome. But also having every single Pokemon be able to terrestrialize, get their own, and change up their typings is very awesome. So honestly, it's probably tied with second with Dynamax. I still like Mega Evolution the most, but I think with Dynamax and terrestrializing, they're just both so cool. And yeah, terrestrializing is awesome, I keep saying. And then I guess we did get some unique forms with Ogerpon and Terapagos. So that's also very cool on its own. I just wish we got some more unique forms for them. but each of them having like their own hat and everything was also very awesome. This is the double pack for the games. I didn't mention that, but it does come with 200 Pokeballs, which is very cool. It says it right there as well. But I just really enjoyed I just really enjoyed Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And I love that like there's such a big difference in some ways. Obviously it's not that different, but there's it's a past focused game. So you have like past I forgot what they're like, the past Titans. So you have like I guess the most common example is like you had the Iron Threads, I believe, for Pokemon Scarlet or Pokemon Violet, and you had the older version, like the Donphan, the two different versions of Donphan, and that's very awesome. Like there was just that's a very cool way to have regional exclusives, but also that kind of impacts like the different characters and everything. So it's just very cool. It's just a very cool game. On the Nintendo Switch 2, obviously it runs really well. So now it doesn't really have those performance issues anymore either. So I just really enjoy these games. And then obviously we also, within the context of this games, we got the Teal Mask and we got the Indigo Disc, and I really enjoyed those two DLCs, especially since the Indigo Disc is like heavily tied into the actual like main story to like in like the way that like we have to go return back to Area Zero and everything. So it was just really awesome. I really enjoyed Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and I think going to the midnight release also helps start this generation for me like in a very positive way, because it was again very awesome to just be around Pokemon fans and just see everyone's excitement for these games. And I really had a great time playing it, and I'm expecting to have the same amount of awesome moments and time with Pokemon, the Generation 10 Pokemon games, but this one will always hold a special place in my heart just because it's such a fun game. And it has Quaxly. Quaxly's not maybe not my favorite starter of all time, but it's definitely up there. And Quaxoval's awesome, and I'm really happy with these games. And in some ways, I think I already mentioned it a little bit, but these games obviously defined my college experience a lot, like between these three. And like even the reveal of Pokemon Scarlet Violet was such a big surprise, just to have these games be revealed right after Pokemon Legends Arceus released, and to have like the Daybreak update announced for this and then go straight into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was really awesome. We pretty much saw we didn't see too much of it, but we saw some nice shots of the region. We saw the 3 starters. So this generation was honestly full of a lot of surprises. Obviously, like the return of Pokemon Detective Pikachu was also awesome, because we didn't really expect that to happen. We didn't really know what was going on with the games. And then in a random June 2023 Nintendo Direct, the Direct wasn't random, but the game randomly just showed up, and it was released not like a couple months later. So it was a lot of big surprises during this generation, and a lot of that's just capped off by the fact that we also had Pokemon Legends ZA revealed. We got our Legends Z, we got our Pokemon Z after so many years. I have Pokemon X and Y. I have Pokemon X right here as well. But returning to Kalos after all those years, after I think it was over 12 or just around 12 years since we got a new Kalos game, it was just really awesome. And obviously it's focused on Lumio City, but I think that is honestly to its benefit because it keeps everything so condensed. There's so many different Pokemon that you can just find throughout just Lumio City. There's so many wild areas that open up. The DLC is out now, and I haven't really done much with the DLC just yet, just because I think I mentioned it in my bingo card video, but I'm waiting for Pokemon Home support to be added because I don't really like releasing Pokemon. So once Pokemon Home support's added, I'm going to be able to move a lot of like the Pokemons I have like duplicates of over to Pokemon Home, and then just catch all like the new Pokemon that we were seeing added to the game. So, but I really like Pokemon Legends EA. It's definitely amongst my favorite Pokemon games in the entire series, just because it's just such a fun game. Obviously, Totodile got a Mega Evolution, which was awesome. Just to return to Kalos in a way that I don't think anybody really expected. We expected maybe one day we would get X and Y remakes, or maybe even XY re-releases to a certain extent, but have just a whole new experience in the Kalos region was so awesome. And just even the things I've seen of the DLC, it seems like it's just so much bigger and in it to there's so many like new megas and everything for this game. It's just really awesome. It's such an awesome game. And it was announced during my last semester of college, so and it released not too long. It released a couple months ago, so I've had a lot of fun with Pokemon Legends EA, and I'm looking forward to going back to it once obviously Pokemon Home support's added, so I can, get all the new Pokemon and complete my Pokedex and see what actually like how the game ends and everything. So, um, I'm very excited for that. I'm hoping Pokemon Home support's added, or announced, at least shown off and like given a release date during the Pokemon Presents. But that is all it really I have for the game wise. Obviously, I've had a lot of experiences this generation with the TCG, just because this was the main, like this was probably the list like generation was the TCG, like for my video, like from a video perspective on this channel, like I spent a lot of a lot of the videos I've uploaded this generation were focused on the TCG. From opening new packs to talking to maybe even reacting to some TCG trailers, using the TCG pack openings as like a means of me being able to talk about like Nintendo Switch 2 and everything. It's just it was an awesome medium for me just to be able to just talk about Pokemon TCG, and then it helped build out my collection of cards. It's just very cool. I'm expecting, obviously, of this year, we're gonna probably get like a 30th anniversary set, and it's probably gonna be tied in to the Scarlet and Violet series, which is gonna be awesome. And yeah, I'm just very excited. I have one thing I can show you all from this generation that's just really cool, so I'll be right back with it. So give me a second. I had this sitting on my desk just as like another like a decoration piece. I had it like situated in front of my Froakie plush to like act like it's watching the Pokemon Presents, which is very cool. But this is the Scarlet and Violet like exclusive, not exclusive, but the limited edition Nintendo Switch 2 OLED, Nintendo Switch OLED console. So it has like all the starters on the back. It has like the different logos in the game. That's the Blueberry Academy logo. We see Hatterene, we see Quaxley, Fuecoco, another Quaxley, the Naranja Academy. That's not Blueberry. That's I forgot what it's called, but that's like that's orange, Scarlet and Violet logos. Yeah, I don't think this is Naranja. I don't. I have to go back and look. But it's just very cool. It's just a very cool design on the back. We just so many cool things with this special edition, and so I'm glad it exists. I'm glad I was able to get it. I mainly got it around the time Tears of the Kingdom came out, because they re-released this, or it was still on the market by the time the Tears of the Kingdom released, and so I wanted to play Tears of the Kingdom on the OLED in the best way possible. So I bought this, and I'm very happy with it. I was able to play like the DLC with this, which is very awesome. It's very cool. I was still able to experience a lot of Scarlet and Violet with this console, and that's pretty awesome. But I think we can talk about a little bit more things about the generation, and then we can just wrap it up, and we talk a little bit about what since this is kind of retrospective, what I think the next couple of years will look like in the future of Pokemon. So yeah, I'll be right back. Let me put this down back in front of Roki. So yeah, this generation was awesome. It's just been a crazy like 4 years in general, but also with Pokemon. And so we're on Pokemon Day now. It's just crazy to think we're gonna be onto a new generation now. We're moving on from Scarlet and Violet and Legends ZA. Those games will be very probably prevalent throughout the rest of the year still. But once we get Generation 10 and the next Pokemon games, it's gonna be really awesome. And then we also have Pokopia just next week, so there's a lot going on for Pokemon. And so I have had a lot of different and fun experiences over the years, and I'm looking forward to many more as we get into Generation 10 now. I'm looking forward to maybe 30 years more of amazing Pokemon adventures and being able to catch Pokemon, and memories being made and everything. And so before I get too emotional, I'm very excited for the next 30 years and this year in general. I'm very excited for so much to happen with Pokemon, and again, so many memories, and just playing a new game. We have our Nintendo Switch 2 now, and I'm expecting Pokemon, the next generation games, to be exclusive to the Switch 2. So that's gonna be like a whole new fun experience. Having Pokemon games that are like built for the Switch 2. And I'm just very excited. I'm just very happy. We're probably gonna get like new TCG announcements, like maybe even like a new I forgot like what they're called, but like a new version of the EXs. Like maybe we'll get something like obviously prevalent to what the next generation games are, but like a mechanic that are associated with that. It's just gonna be really awesome. And then obviously, Generation 10 probably isn't gonna be it. We're probably gonna be in Generation 11 and Generation 12 and Generation 13 as we go into the future. So I'm just very, very excited for what the future of Pokemon is going to bring over the next, you know, probably for the rest of my lifetime. So I'm hoping, I hope as I continue to get older that I'm going to continue being able to play Pokemon and experiencing this amazing franchise and just experiencing so much of the fun and amazing moments that Pokemon brings. And yeah, it's very awesome and it's very cool. And I'm always gonna hold the memories from the last, obviously not the last 30 years, but the last like 20 years very dear to me. And I hope we're able to continue making so many fun memories over the next, again, so many years going into the future. And, I hope so many amazing games return, so many amazing spin-off series return. I'm gonna hopefully be getting many more plushies in the future. As this is my final video pretty much in the lead up to Pokemon Day, I just want to say I hope you all enjoy Pokemon Day. If you watched this entire video through, I hope you all enjoyed just me listening to me talk about some of my memories with Pokemon and many like my thoughts on many of the games that I've released over the years and like the TCG sets and everything. But I hope you all enjoy Pokemon Day. I hope you all have an amazing 30th anniversary of Pokemon. But without further ado, I will see you all when the Pokemon Presents airs. And with my reaction, I might do a live stream, but I'm not sure about it yet. But and probably by the time this video is uploaded, I probably would have settled on that, but I don't know. But by like 10 o'clock or 10:30 ET, after the time, like maybe an hour after Presents airs, I will have my reaction up either way. So I will see you all then. I'm very excited for today or tomorrow, obviously, but very excited for the 30th anniversary, and I'm very just excited just to see what the future of Pokemon brings. So I enjoyed doing all these videos over the last couple of days. I'm obviously it's like 6 or 7 videos I've done, so I really enjoyed all of it, and I probably will do a lot more or a couple more videos just related to Generation 10 once that's officially announced, and Pokopia. But until then, I hope you all do makes you happy. Because my previous name, Generic Happy. I hope you all have an amazing day, an amazing Pokemon day, and I'll see you then. Goodbye.